Okay, so let's put it right here. And just hope that you can't see the tissue papers behind that. Hello, fellow book lovers, and welcome to some quality content. So I read Klara and the Sun, and I loved it. In fact, I have so many thoughts on it that I kind of wanted to make a book review without making a book review because I don't feel confident to do that. So as you may know, Klara and the Sun got published in the first half of the year on the 3rd of March in 2021.
And because my dumbass forgot to mention that the name of the author was Kazuo Ishiguro, I have to say it now because otherwise referring to him as he doesn't really make sense. There you go.
And it is the first book that he published since he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. This is the second book by him that I have read. Previously I've read Never Let Me Go, and I was so dumbfounded by this novel that I immediately, when I saw this on the bookshelves in my bookstore, had to get it. But then I was left a little bit confused by the primarily bad reviews about it. I didn't want to confront myself with a possible bad book by an author that had previously touched my heart so deeply. So I finally picked it up and I was quite surprised while reading at how much I actually liked it. So I want to take this opportunity and spread the love a bit, since it wouldn't really hurt my channel to be a bit more positive, would it? Before I start though, may I give a little bit of a disclaimer? So I would generally, having only read 2 books by him, but I would generally advise you to know as little as possible before reading any of his works, because I think that that would have the greatest impact for you. Also, I'm not in particular talking about spoilers, but I am going to talk about specific excerpts and how I think that they were brilliant, and maybe that could potentially spoil you if you are at certain passages in the book, so I think that it will impair the impact of the book for you if you're listening to me. Also, everything in this video is my own interpretation and what I thought of the book. This isn't to throw any shade on people who didn't like it. It's your opinion. If you didn't like it, it didn't do the things for you that it did for me. And I also don't have any knowledge or education in literature, so you can, if you want to, debunk whatever I'm saying and say that I'm stupid for interpreting too much into a story. That being said, Klara and the Sun is about an AI, an artificially intelligent robot, or in this universe called AF, the artificial friend, because these specific robots that Klara is one of have been created to support children who are lonely. Now, this is an alternative universe in the future, which is why human relationships look very different from what they do now, and possibly maybe something dystopian, maybe something world orderly shifting has happened in these characters' worlds to make the world as it is. But because this isn't a sci-fi dystopia, it's not that much explained. It's more about the characters and their relationship to each other. Now, Klara gets chosen by a kid to become her AF, but soon we discover that this kid is sick. Quite severely sick, actually. Most of the times the kid, whose name is Josie, isn't really capable of doing much. And now we kind of follow Josie and her seemingly unpreventable worsening condition, and all the impact that that has on her surroundings and all of her social environment through the eyes of Klara. To me, this is writing at its finest form, because it doesn't only involve everything that is said in the story, it also involves everything that is said between the lines as well as the reader. So one huge aspect that I thought this book was talking about was faith, which we see displayed in Klara's belief in the power of the sun. And obviously, being solar powered and repeatedly told that it is the reason for her life and that it is what nurtures her, I can then understand why she gets the idea of the sun being this powerful being capable of giving and taking life. Which brings me to this beautiful juxtaposition of higher advanced technology and nature, of science who tries to explain everything, and believing in a higher entity. Because yeah, she's artificially intelligent, right? She should know better than to see the sun as her god. But on the other hand, she's an artificial intelligent being. Like, she also only learns from whatever she experiences, and due to some coincidences, as people who understand the sun would say, she starts to believe that the sun is actually capable of providing and declining help. And this faith aspect, which I'm quite confident that it got talked about in the book, is linked to another aspect which I'm not as confident about, but which I still felt, and that was hope. So like, naturally, Klara, being Josie's AF, she wants to help her because that is her job. She wants to better her, to like take the disease away from her. And so she seeks for help. And the way she does it is like, you know, she asks the sun for help. And this is also a very, very beautiful scene in my opinion, where Klara just goes down to a barn because she always sees that the barn is in the path of the descending sun. And so she believes that this is the only place where she can speak to the sun and ask him for help. You know, like a church. Anyways, that wasn't the important part. What I found interesting though was then the dilemma that started to unfold in front of me, which was me, being the reader, knowing exactly well that it is not how the sun works and that the sun is not gonna do shit for Josie. Like, she's beyond the sun's help. I mean, there's like, the sun can help us being happier overall, and definitely you shouldn't miss out on that vitamin D, but there's a dick joke somewhere. But Josie isn't really a case for the sun anymore. A contrary belief to my conviction that the sun is just a lifeless thing that we as an Earth orbit around was also my trust in the capability of an AI to know better than a human in certain cases. So I had these two contradicting beliefs, and what they did to me was, when it came down to the climax of the book, I had like all of these feelings combined within me. I was about 80% sure that it's not gonna happen and that the sun can't be a savior, and I was about 20% doubting, thus feeling hopeful and feeling hope that this maybe would work for some weird reason. And being it Kazuo just being the writer and just, you know, putting the story out of its frame of logic. You know? He could do whatever, and that was my 5% of doubt, or 20% as I said. And it worked and let me feel so close to the characters. Amazing. Now another topic that this book is talking about, which I personally haven't really reflected upon that much, is love. But I'm gonna link a video to Channel 4's interview with Kazuo Ishiguro about that and how there's different kinds of love and stuff like that. I want to link it because of completion. I personally, as I said, I wasn't really aware of that, but I'm not really looking out for love in my books, so I'm sorry that I overread it. I saw it through a different lens, which wasn't particularly love, but social and human interaction. You know, you're reading a story involving social interaction, social life, human connection through the eyes of an AI. This is fascinating to me. Now, in this world, AIs are capable of emotions. And you know, I found fascinating that Klara is like becoming more and more emotional, even irrational at times, as we have seen. And she's still, you can see in the writing that she is nonetheless an AI. You see her very, very neutral descriptions of what happens, although she kind of, she always is left feeling a particular way afterwards. But she's never really portraying a situation in favor of somebody. By now, I have hopefully, and probably in a very incoherent list, told you a couple of factors of why I think that Klara and the Sun is beautiful and why I think it's brilliant. But to bring my point across a little bit more on why I think that Klara and the Sun has phenomenal writing, I would like to give one further example, which is actually one thing that I can narrow down to a couple of pages in which I see Kazuo's writing skill to be captured. So there's this amazing part where Klara kind of gets impaired, and as a result of that you see her getting disoriented. Like all of a sudden everything is moving so fast. Like the topics of conversation get switched every 3 seconds. You don't know exactly who is reading. You can still follow, but you have to pay extra attention to keep pace. And there's just line after line after line. And this whole situation is embedded in between two other scenes who are quite important and who you would like to know the outcome of. So you're really trying to focus and really trying to, you know, follow everything that is going on here. But you feel like the sense of everything and what is actually happening is so close to always slipping right out of your fingers. And that is, oh my god, I'm blown away. Because I've seen scenes like this before, where the writer just tries to suggest that the protagonist is confused, and so they're just throwing one unrelated line and sentence after sentence into, like, on the pages, which surely gives the impression of a confused character, a character that doesn't really know what's going on. But it's like, it's never done in a way that you can emphasize with that character. At least I haven't read something like that before. And now the most important part of Kazuo Ishiguro's work, and although I still haven't read more than 2 books of his, but the ultimate selling point of what makes his writing so good and so fascinating and one of a kind is that what he writes lingers within your mind. You think about it, it impacts you even like years later. I still to this day, and it's been 2 years that I've read Never Let Me Go, think of the book and I keep comparing books that talk about the same topic or even other media that talks about the same topic to this book. Or even alone for itself. I don't need to compare it to other things. Sometimes under the shower it just hits me and I think of Never Let Me Go. Like, I'm pretty sure it will happen to me with Klara and the Sun as well. And what I also found very interesting about that is that Kazuo is actually trying to write that way. Don't believe me? Look at the interview. It's really fascinating. I've always had this feeling about these books, but I didn't know that you could actually aim in writing for doing that. That it was his goal. Like, how can you do that? This is genius. So I know that this was nothing special and probably a bunch of unrelated thoughts for the most of you if you kept watching, but nonetheless I had a lot of fun talking about a book that I really adore. So thanks so much for listening if you came that far. That's it from me for now, so I will see you at another time in another video.